Hello, career thought leaders. It's good to see you. And we are going to be talking about the gloom and doom that is the economy and the real challenges that people are having in the job market today, and what we can do to help people keep moving, keep going, and finding some ways to navigate this in a positive, as much of a positive as we can be, without, we're not talking Pollyanna forced positives here. What do they call it? Toxic positivity. We're talking real life, keep going. How do we make this work? And what do we want to pay attention to get what we need, which is a job, or maybe those of you who are running small businesses, how do you make a living with all of the challenges going on in the economy? So a few weeks ago, we shared an article that talked about navigating the differences between reality and projections, because projections are just that. And obviously, with the stock market crash here in the US yesterday, there's some realities. But a lot of those realities are because of predictions. And we've been seeing this for the last, 12, 18 months. If you're joining me, drop a note. Yeah, right. We've been hearing this for a long time, maybe even longer than that, about this coming recession. And every time the real numbers are better than the projected numbers, and we just keep floating along. Now, the economic situation is different than the job situation, which the job market has been struggling in pockets, right? Struggling in little places, struggling in certain industries, struggling in certain geographies, and because of that supply and demand and different changes that have happened in that, especially with some internationalization, globalization of things, and then with some bringing of manufacturing back and what that means for some companies. But I'd love to hear where you're joining me from. Drop a note in the chat. If you're watching the replay, drop a hashtag replay for us and let us know, where are you joining us from and what are you seeing in your neck of the woods? Because it's one of the strategies we'll be talking about today, is the difference between these kind of global pictures and what might be happening for you or your clients locally. We're going to go through 3 strategies for how to deal with the realities as well as the doom and gloom in the market. So last week we touched on this a little bit, but it was more stated towards the resume aspect. And this is really understanding what we want to do, what our goals are, as well as who we are. This sounds like a no-brainer, but most of the time we haven't really taken the time to do this. And we haven't taken the time to do it in a way that's clear enough that we can plug it in somewhere else. So what am I talking about? Talking about the concept of personal branding, but not the way most people define it, the way that we define it at Career Thought Leaders, from Reach Personal Branding and William Arruda, now to the programs that we teach. And it's really understanding who you are, what your strengths are, what of those you want to bring to the world, of course, because not all of it, or to the world of work, not all of it you want to bring to the world of work. And then really being able to do the market research and understand what's going on in the industry so that you can find where those two combine and make that match. This is a skill set that I think we're all as humans constantly working on, and we don't really learn it anywhere. You don't learn how to do a little bit of market research. We're not talking like the, multi-$1,000 level of research. We're just talking about a little bit of market research to understand what's going on in an industry, what's going on right now, and how might you be able to plug in with the skill sets that you have. When you do that, you start to find opportunities. And Susan Britton, in the way back, one of the first things I learned in this field was the difference between openings. So openings are this little tiny thing, right? Job postings, those types of things, and opportunities. And opportunities is the big O. And opportunities are the way that we find opportunities to plug in, whether that's contract, whether that's side hustle, or a new job. It's figuring out, how can I leverage my skill sets that I want to, my strengths, and plug them in where someone else has a problem they're willing to pay to fix. And that's kind of the challenge for a lot of us, is what is that problem that someone in our industry is willing to pay to fix? A little bit of a wonky market, definitely. So this is the challenge for us as business owners, for us in our careers, and for our clients, is to do that research. Here's where the challenge comes with the gloom and doom in the news, is because we're trying to do market research, but we're getting these messages that are not helpful, somewhat because they're negative, but a lot because they just aren't rooted in our truth. So they're big numbers, they're what's going on in the big economy, but they probably don't impact you as much as you think. So here's one of the research that also I learned when I was just getting in this business that I found fascinating, is that most people will say, oh, the global economy is so bad, the national economy is, it's bad. Our state economy is doing okay. Our local economy is doing great. So economic researchers, they do these polls and they see this trend where when we go big picture, the gloom and doom tends to set in because we can't really see that big picture except for what we hear in the news, and so it's very gloom and doom. But as we get closer and closer to our nexus, we usually have a more positive outcome because we see local businesses doing good things. We talk to people, we see people buying things at the store. And this is what we want to try to tap into for our job seekers and maybe even for our business, is how can we connect to that good energy that's happening more local in whatever our space is. Now, if you are an employee who does look more remotely, that's the right word I was looking for. If you are more remote, you might do this kind of looking at an industry instead of a location. But let's talk about it in terms of location first. So tap into what's going on in your local business area. Is there a local business journal? What's going on in your chamber? The economic development offices. Sometimes they're inside a city municipality. Sometimes they're an external entity, maybe a county entity, depending on where you're at. But look at those local connections, look at their data, but also go to their events and start engaging with people who likely are going to have a different perspective than what you're hearing on the big scope, because you get that more localized, but also kind of down to earth imprint when you go to these types of events. I used to love to go to, it was a county-wide, kind of even a two county-wide economic development group that would have meetings. They'd bring in speakers from businesses, and you'd get to hear what real businesses in your locality are doing and what they're seeing, what they're saying. And anybody can do this in their area so that they can get that feel. And I would even say, if you're in an area yes, you want to pay attention to what's going on in the news, but I'd go to some of these groups and talk to the real people and see what they're saying, because you get a different feel usually than you do from the news. I mean, the news makes their money on sensationalism in some ways, right? On the extremities of a story. And when you go and you talk to real business owners, real people, real employees, you're going to get a different feel for what's going on in the industry. And I would recommend people doing that. Now, if you are a more remote focused employee, you might have to create that in a little different way by going to some industry groups, going to those industry events, and actually talking to people, starting a chat in the Zoom room, and then having some conversations with people afterwards. You can create the same idea even if you're not in person. But that's the market research that we want to do. We can do it through the news. We can look at some of those things, but I really want our clients and us to go talk to more real people and see what's going on in our industry, in our geography, so that we can narrow it down just a little bit and have more realistic and maybe engaging conversations than we get one way with some of the news. In news, it's slated one way, it's slated the other way. It really doesn't matter, good or bad, either way. It's that it's out here. When we start talking to people, it gets closer, and typically the conversations are just more productive. I'm not going to say positive because I don't want to go there, but it just can be more productive to do that way. So we know who we are. well, many of your clients probably don't. So that's a good place for them to start too, is to really think about what have we done? Where have we excelled? I love the appreciative inquiry process, kind of adopting it from the counseling world, and a lot of businesses use it in the career counseling space. And we can take that, and Don Shute kind of translated the appreciative inquiry piece for career development. And I love to just ask people, when have they been really excited about their work? When have they been really engaged in what they're doing? And then what were the tasks they were doing? What was the setting? What was going on? And we start to get those little glimpses and glimmers of goodness that then we can build on, that this is what you're good at and what you love to do. That's truly what a strength is. It's not just something that you're good at. It's something that gives you life, that gives you energy. And the more we can help people tap into that and really understand that, then they can start researching the market and they can find the places where those two connect. So what do businesses in my arena, or what do customers in my arena need from someone like me? What are they looking for? What are they interested in? What are they struggling with? And how can I make those connections? And I think all of us get sales emails in our LinkedIn or in our email, and some of them are okay. The person has researched the industry. They've researched small business owners. And although I maybe not appreciate their pitch, or it's not the right time, they've actually done their research, and their message connects with some pain points I'm familiar with, or it connects to pain points that I'm having. And that's that message that's going to hit, versus when someone sends you that message and they haven't thought about it at all. I kind of pick on one person that sent me a message in LinkedIn, and they said, "Hey, I'm a graphic designer and a photographer. If you need any help, let me know." Like, that is not, like, they've done their piece of the pie. This is what they love to do, but they didn't take any time on my piece of the pie. What are small businesses owners struggling with when it comes to graphic design and photography? What might, someone who's in the coaching and training space struggle with when it comes to those two things? You could even search that in a language model, ChatGPT, and get much better answers and approaches than this person did, and just throwing it out there that this is what I do. And that's what a lot of our clients are doing, honestly. They are saying, this is what I like to do. Or sometimes they're kind of giving you the whole menu, right? It's like going to those restaurants that serve everything, Italian, Mexican, whatever you got, right? It's on the menu. And it's hard for an employer to order, and they're not going to, because they don't have the time. So it's our job to know what we do offer, and then look at the employer or the customer and say, what about this do they need? And then how can I create a message that connects the dots? And I think it's one of the things that we do as personal brand strategists, as career coaches in general, that people need help with, because we weren't taught those skills and we weren't taught how to do that. Um, getting no traction, looking for a year or more. So that's where we're going to come and do some of that research, right? What's going on in this space? Why aren't data analysts needed as much anymore? Has that title shifted? Has the work shifted? What might be that skill set that people are looking for? And how can we do that research? You're asking about the Wall Street Journal. Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to go back and look at that week for 20 somethings. Yeah. Yeah, Linda, if you want to share the article you're talking about. But I think it's particularly challenging for young people, because everybody wants a specialist, and this isn't new. It's been going on for a while, that everyone wants someone who's experienced. And that's part of, I know, what you all who work with young people are helping them do, is communicate the experience that they do have, because it's not going to help them to appear to not have that experience. People want to hire someone that's got a degree, but also a credential and experience. And most of the time they do have that experience, because the colleges are creating experiential learning. They just don't know how to communicate it. They don't know how to explain it in that way. And if they don't have that experience, how can we help them get some experience through internships? Or, I love the work of some of our friends at Parker Dewey. So Parker Dewey has created micro internships. I think that's the right word, micro internships, where they can get that experience, and they can be a recent grad and still apply for those micro internships through a place like Parker Dewey. And I'll put that in the chat. If any of you are watching and you've done work with them, drop a note, let us know. But that is one of the places that people are getting work, is through, it's kind of like a side hustle, only someone's helping you get that side hustle, kind of like a staffing agency, only directly related to young people and people just finishing degrees. And those are some opportunities where we can get where we can help people get those new experiences they need to launch their careers. I think that's part of the challenge too. Maybe we need to add that to our pie, where you've got, what do you want to do? What are what are your strengths? What does the market need? And then as you're connecting those dots, what's the experiences that are going to show you're qualified to do that thing? And if you don't have experiences that show you're qualified, we may have to keep shifting the dial just a little bit until we find those things where you can speak to experiences that do show you're qualified. And experiences might be a credential or a learning experience, and might be an internship, might be a class project. We've got to keep shifting until we find the combination of those three things, both your strengths, interests, energy, the market's needs, and those qualifications that show someone should hire you for that job. So thank you for bringing that into the conversation as well. Forage. Excellent. I'll have to look at that one. Excellent. And then Parker Dewey is another one. I don't know if that's similar to them, but I'll have to check that out. What I find, and this is a challenge, is that a lot of people are struggling with connecting those two pieces. So they know what they want to do, but they can't put it in the language of the jobs that are open or the jobs that are getting hired right now. And we have to be able to do that. We have to make be able to shift a little bit, make that tweak to fit into those jobs that are hiring right now, fit into those industries that are hiring right now, and do that research either in the industry or in your geographic location, so that you're not just paying attention to the big picture, which right now is very gloom and doom. And of course, there's some reality to that, but there's also opportunity underneath that, that we can uncover when we do the research a little bit differently. Yes. Yes, internships would need to be aligned with what you actually want to do, not just sit here and make coffee. And I don't think there's too many people paying people to do that anymore, because that's just not the market we're in. So hopefully the internships are meaningful and related to what they want to do. And volunteer experience, the same thing. When people would always say, oh, volunteer to get into the career you want. But that only works if that volunteer experience is giving you two things. One, that experience that you can actually put on your resume that's aligned with what you want to do. And two, ideally some kind of network that you can tap into to help you get to where you want to go. And when people do a learning experience, oftentimes they miss out on that piece, that it isn't just about the learning experience and the skills, or even the experiences that they might get. It's also about that network and the relationships that can help them get to where they want to go. And I think a lot of students miss out on that, especially when they're doing virtual learning, or when they're doing their MBA and some of those types of programs that may or may not be great at creating the experiences for you. How do you create those experiences for yourself? So 3 strategies for kind of dealing with the gloom and doom out there: know yourself, know your market and connect the dots, and then do that research locally. And I'm going to put that in kind of in air quotes, right? Because for some of you, it may not be local, it might be industry focused, but I want you to just scale the scope down of that market research that you're doing, and to try to not put too much of our emotional energy in what we hear big picture globally, until we've done that research more locally or industry focused and can uncover some of those opportunities. And then you're raging against hustle culture, and we all want work-life balance and all of that. But realizing that when you're in certain phases of life and work, there's going to be a hustle. And the challenge becomes when we haven't figured out how to get out of that hustle, or we can't communicate to set boundaries. But it might be a time in our life where we're hustling, and I see people doing it. I see our entrepreneurial clients, colleagues doing it. I see some entrepreneurs who didn't want to be entrepreneurs, but they are right now because they can't find work and they're hustling. And you want to have your niche based on your skills and your market. But then within that niche, you really want to explore all the options in terms of ways to generate income. So it may be an opportunity to, subcontract or do hourly work or whatever it might be, instead of just looking at a job. I've been talking to some folks who are trying to get some subcontractor gigs as resume writers. And getting out there and sharing your expertise as a resume writer, trying to build your brand digitally or however you want to do it, then can also help you get those subcontract gigs, and it may help you get individual clients as well. And I see that with our job seekers. Oh, I want a full-time job. Well, what are all the other ways that we can start getting something going, getting some plates spinning? Volunteer gigs, internships, you know, side hustles, whatever it might be, that get that momentum going, get some money coming in, so that then you can keep looking for the full-time job. It's a mindset. It's not something that a lot of us are used to doing. And how do we manage that work-life integration? Um, and realizing that right now we may have to hustle. And then how are we going to know when we're done and set those boundaries so that we can not constantly be hustling, because none of us can do that. So I don't know, just some thoughts on the day of how we can help our clients and ourselves get through some of these challenging times. I love that you participate here in these industry conversations. I hope you're doing that elsewhere. We have a great Facebook group where people are doing that as well, so that you can have that check-in and reality of people in your industry, and not just the big picture that can tend to be a little bit more doom and gloom than it needs to be. So for those of you, I know we've got a class starting here soon for our certified personal brand strategist. If you're interested in being able to help clients do this, right? Who are you? Who's your market? How are you going to create a kind of a go-to-market messaging for yourself? That's what we talk about in this class. It's a lot of fun. It's very deep. Susan Critton teaches the class, and it starts August 21st. So join us. If you're not going to do that, come back here next Tuesday for the now, the new, and the next in careers. If you have topics or things you'd like us to cover, let us know. We have a few speakers that have reached out, so we will have some guest speakers on our Trend Tuesdays here in the next few weeks. And next month, we'll be putting out a survey for the trends for our 2025 career industry trends. We love to survey those of you who are paying attention to these types of things. So get thinking, submit your ideas to me if you want, about what you see as the trends that will impact careers in 2025 and beyond. We'll look forward to seeing you next week here on Trend Tuesdays, where we talk about the now, the new, and the next in careers. Thank you, everyone.